Hello everyone, welcome back. This is day 2 of the Military Adaptive Sports Program's Powerlifting Clinic. Blah. So we're back here with Coach LJ and Alex, our athlete, and they're going to take us through our day 2 curriculum, so have fun and be safe.
Hi everybody, Coach LJ and Alex. Today we're going to demonstrate the squat, which is one of the 3 power lifts that many of you as athletes may be doing or want to do in your training. So what we're going to do today is go over the basics again for learning how to do a squat, how to set up for the squat, and how to properly perform the squat as a safe lift. So right now Alex is going to set up, and when he does, he's going to want to center himself in the bar. So what we do is we make sure that he's centered, has the bar on his back. First thing he's going to do is stand up. Feel the weight. Make sure that you're balanced. If the bar doesn't feel good to you, put it back. Put it down in the rack and reset. Always come out of the rack when you feel comfortable under the bar. So Alex is set. He's even. He's going to stand up. He's going to let his mind know that he's got 176 pounds on the bar. And now when he steps out of the rack, he's going to step out. He's going to take small steps, and then he's going to set his feet so that he can sit into the bottom of the squat and keep his chest up. So before he does this, he's going to take a big breath. He's going to keep his chest up, and he's going to squat and come back up. And he's going to take a big air. He's going to squat and come back up. And do just one more. Squat, up, and rack. Now when he walks into the rack, I want him to walk through the rack. I want him to be able to get to the rack so that he knows he's in contact with the rack or the pins, and then he can let the bar down and sit within the rack safely. When you're doing the squat, the same thing for the squat as any other lift. The first thing you want to do is set your grip. Now when you set your grip, you want to make sure that your hand position is far enough out so that you can grip the bar and pull the bar into your back. So when he sets his grip, he's going to set the grip. He's going to step under the bar, make sure it's centered. He's going to stand. He's going to step out. 1, 2, 3. Set his stance. And then he's going to take a big air. Squat. 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 And rack. Now, with the squat, what you always want to do, like with any other lift in the gym, if you're lifting weights that you're unsure of, or maybe you haven't tried before, you always want to train with a spotter. Or if there's a coach who can help you, you always want to have somebody who can help you if you go down into a squat position and you aren't able to come back up. Again, like we talked about on day 1, safety first. Always think about being safe because you want to be able to get to the next workout. So, the way that you can spot or someone can spot you is one of 2 ways. So the first way is when you have an athlete, and Alex is much bigger than I am, but I know that he can lift this weight. Now, if this was a weight that was much bigger, I might want to have side spotters outside the rack on either end of the bar. So when he sets up and he goes under the bar, he, as the athlete, knows nothing's going to happen to him. He's going to be safe. So when he gets 400 or 500 pounds on the bar and it's time for him to go down, you want to make sure that you're right here, spotting. Squat. 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 And if he needs help, you're going to grab his chest. You're going to duck in and you're going to grab his chest to help him up out of the bar, out of the bottom, and then you're going to help him into the rack so that he can complete the weight repetition in a safe manner. If you were to go on to the side of the bar and you needed to spot from the side, you would hold a cup this way around the bar, not touching the bar, until the athlete either fails or it looks as though the lift is not going to be successful. You don't want to grab the bar and yank it as the athlete is lifting, because then the bar gets side to side and you can actually injure an athlete that way. So the main thing with the squat is when you're doing a lift, let's just pretend you get stuck in the bottom. Okay? If the athlete is doing a rep, and let's do 2, and on the third one, just come up really, really slow. Okay? Squat. Good. Squat. Good. Okay. Squat. And he can't get up. I'm going to help him. He's going to stay with the bar, and he's going to walk in the rack. And we're going to make sure that the athlete is safe. When you're spotting someone, you can't be here. You have to be right up behind them, because you're actually going to help him lift the bar. The athlete themselves is never going to give up and never, ever run away from the bar, because not only can you risk dropping that bar on your leg, but you can also hurt your spotters. If you have a lot of weight on that bar, nobody's going to be able to catch a free-falling bar with hundreds of pounds on it. It's just not going to happen. So, again, the main thing with squatting, when you load the bar, you notice we have clips. You always want to use a clip. Sometimes you'll have spring collars. Sometimes you'll have heavy-duty collars, and all of them are different weights. The clips here may be a 1/4 pound. The big 2.5 kilo collars that you'll see sometimes in the gyms, those weigh 5 pounds. So when you're loading the bar, remember that your bar is always 45 pounds or 20 kilos, which is 44 pounds. So when you're adding your bar, you always want to make sure you're adding a collar if it happens to be the big 5-pound collars. So we're going to put a little more weight on here and show you how we would go up for Alex. Okay, Alex has been lifting for a while. And we're going to give him about 220 pounds, which for him is still a warm-up weight. But when you do your warm-ups, you want to make sure that your warm-up progressions are so that when you're doing the squat, you're not doing hundreds of reps for no reason. You want to work probably in sets of 3 to 5 to warm up. So now Alex is just going to do a set of 5. And when you watch him, you'll see that when he sets up, Again, big air, chest up, eyes up. Squat. Good. Big air. Good. Big air. Yeah. Big air. And one more. Big air. Now, for many of you, you may be wondering about depth. This is something that when you're doing the squat, as with any exercise, you want to make sure you're using proper technique. When you are setting up for the squat, as you see Alex, he's big, he's got wide shoulders. He has to set his feet wide enough so that when he gets into that bottom position, he can receive the bar into his hips. What we mean by that, when you saw him going into the bottom position, he reached a point that was parallel or below. That may not always be the case for everyone in the beginning. It may never be a goal for some of our athletes. The thing is that you want to be safe. So, you ready to go again? Mm-hmm. So, sometimes what we'll do, we're just going to do like a quarter squat. Some of the athletes, when they first start, they will come to the gym, and because of flexibility issues or whatever their issues are, they may only be able to do a partial squat. So we're going to come down and straight up. Okay? Come down and straight up. Good. Come down and straight up. And back. Good. And if that's all you can do for flexibility purposes, then that's all you can do. There are some times where we will incorporate a bench for some athletes who cannot or will not ever be able to use a bar in a full squat position. So again, for safety purposes, we will put a bench behind them so that when they feel that behind them, and actually this is how Alex started years ago, when he wasn't sure where his foot placement should be, when he wasn't used to lifting hundreds of pounds in a squat position. So all you're going to do, Alex, is just hit the bench and come back up again. So what we do is we say, okay, just do a touch and go. And what you need to do is to just make sure that the bench is lined up. He hits the bench with his bottom, and he touches, and he comes back up. Now notice, his back is straight, his chest is out, his eyes are always looking up. 2 more. When he comes down into this position, all the weight is on the heels, right? We're not on our toes, we're on our heels, right? So this is something that you can use if you're not used to squatting a free weight. You also can use this for no weight. A lot of times we will have athletes who just don't have the flexibility or don't have the strength and don't know where to go. So let's just try and do like a goblet squat without the weight. All right, so what we'll do is we'll teach them how to hold their chest up, touch, and stand back up. And you see the way he sets when he comes down, and he sets and he tries to reach for that bench, and then he sits straight up, because you always want to keep your chest up, you want to keep your eyes up, and you sit. Squat. And watch the way he shifts his weight back onto his heels as he goes to hit the bench, and when he pushes up out of that bottom position, all the weight is on his heels. He's pushing up with his hamstrings and his glutes. Squat. Good. 2 more. Good. 1 more. Good. So that is a good beginner's technique to try to understand for you. Remember, every athlete isn't going to have the same foot position, is not going to have the same grip position, is not going to have the same bar position on their back. So you have to find out what is your, we call it the sweet spot. Where is that bar position on your back, and where is that foot position for you, so that you can get down into that bottom position safely. If you can't get down into the bottom position, that's okay. That's how we start. You want to start small. If you can't use a 45-pound bar, sometimes what we'll do is we'll give an athlete a kettlebell, if you have these, and we'll have them do what we call kettlebell squats or goblet squats. And that's a good technique to use to help you to build the quad strength, the low back strength, the core strength, and to help you to keep that chest up and out, so that when you do put a bar on your back to do the squat, you're going to be in good position, and your mind is going to remember what that technique was. Good. Now, if you don't have a kettlebell, again, you can do these with no weight. If you have access to dumbbells, you can use the dumbbells as well. I'll give you a little one. Again, you don't want to start with maximum weight. What you want to start with is a weight that you know you can keep proper position and you can keep good technique. What you'll see sometimes is you'll see people trying to do this exercise and they wind up leaning forward and then they're on their toes. You want to make sure that you're keeping the weight close to your body. You want to make sure that you're sitting back, and you want to make sure that you're doing maybe 8, 12 repetitions per set, and that will help you to get in condition for someday hopefully doing a barbell squat. Good. Now, in the squat, sometimes, I'm going to bring this up because I know that it's going to come up, you will see athletes wearing different types of belts, and there are many different types of belts on the market. There are these old-fashioned leather single prong belts. There are Velcro belts which just go around your waist and they pull this way and Velcro tight. And then you have your 4-inch belts that some competitors will use or some lifters will use for training purposes. This is a single prong. These bench belts come in all different models, colors. Some come with a lever, so it's easier to clip on and off. We try not to use belts as much as possible when lifters are starting to lift, because if you look at the exercise that you're doing, it is an exercise, yes, where you're putting weight on your back. So everybody says that squatting is going to hurt your knees and you're going to hurt your back. Well, if you learn the technique right, and if you bring the weight up in a slow, methodical, training way, you will not have to use a belt until you get to a point where we feel that lifting a heavier volume might risk getting injured. We try to help you to learn how to squat, learn how to build that core strength, so that when the time comes that you put this belt on, it's like having a double layer of abs. In other words, it's going to give you that additional low back, abdominal strength to give you the strength that you need to increase the weight that you want to lift in the squat exercise. Sometimes, again, like any other sport or event, the squat is something that you need to practice the technique. You need to practice it like you play. You're going to hear us say that time and time again. You don't just go in and load the bar up with weight because everybody else is doing a lot of weight. That doesn't mean that you should be doing that. You want to train within your own capabilities, and you want to train safely so that we can help you to build the strength that you're going to need. Remember, squatting is one of those events that a lot of athletes don't like to do because they're hard and they're tough to learn. But once you learn the proper technique and once you find that sweet spot, you're going to find that having strong legs, strong back, strong core is going to make you better at any other sport that you're doing. So this exercise is something that crosses over into any sport for any athlete, and it helps you also to build some mental toughness. A lot of times we will do sets and repetitions of the squat which go beyond a rep scheme that somebody might be comfortable with. And what that does is that trains us to push it to the limit a little bit. Push it to a point where you think you might not have been able to do that. But you know what? A lot of us have been there, and a lot of us have gotten to those points where we think our maximum is X, and then the coach makes us do X for 5 reps, and then we get to Y. And so that's the reason we do this. We do this not only for physical strength, but also it helps us to build mental toughness. If anything I've learned about doing strength training, squatting, and then we're going to go into the deadlift at one part of this session, all of these exercises, the squats, the deadlifts, these are probably the 2 heaviest lifts you're going to do in the gym. If you learn them well, and if you learn the technique for you, for your body type, for your gender, for your whatever your inabilities or abilities are, you could still get better. And that's the great thing about coaching and coaching these lifts with athletes that need to be using them for adaptive sports. So that was our demonstration on the squat. The only other thing that you might see some athletes using in the squat is a pair of wrist wraps. And wrist wraps can be used as something that's just an extra support if you have a lot of weight on the bar. Sometimes some of the athletes, you need that extra support, like you might need a belt, but you're not going to use those all the time. You don't want to create a handicap by using something that's going to create more of a weakness than a strength. So like in the bench press, you're always going to use your thumbs, you know. You're always going to be able to grip the bar. Now, if we have an athlete who absolutely can't, for some reason injuries prevent him from doing that, then we're going to come up with some way, whether it's a false grip or some sort of adaptive grip mechanism, to help you to hold on to that bar so that we create a squat that's going to be safe for the athlete. Again, I keep going back to safety, but safety has to be your primary goal whenever you're stepping into the gym and you're lifting weight. So I hope that this squat technique section has helped you a little bit. I hope that you will be successful with trying to do the squat. And again, if there's any questions or anything specific that we need to answer for you, we will make ourselves available to help you with the squat. Thank you. Okay, welcome back. Now we're going to cover the third of the lifts for power lifts, and that is the deadlift. And the phrase that we use in any competition for powerlifting is that the meet doesn't start till the bar hits the floor, which means that the deadlift is probably the heaviest of all the lifts in a powerlifting competition. With the deadlift, like with the bench and the squat, you want to learn how to do this lift in the most efficient, safe technique that you can learn. This is the lift that you, again, will see a lot of people doing improperly in any gym, anywhere in the country. Many times people will try to lift much more than they're capable of, and with the deadlift, it does take time to learn it because it is a hard lift. So today, Alex has already warmed up a little bit. He's done a few sets. So we're going to demonstrate 3 different types of deadlifts. We're going to demonstrate the sumo style, which is a wider stance deadlift. We're going to demonstrate the conventional, which is a narrow stance deadlift. And then we're going to go into a trap bar and show you proper technique, how to lift the deadlift in each of those different positions. Using the sumo is probably the hardest of the 3 styles of the deadlift. And the reason being is because when you're in that wide stance position, which you'll see when Alex goes to set up, you're using a lot of your adductor or your inner thigh strength to push that bar off the ground. You're not using your back. If you learn anything from all of this, you never want to use your back to lift the weight, okay? That is especially true here, because if you round your back, if you hitch the weight, if you bounce the bar off the ground, in this gym, no lift. So we want you to suffer a little bit. We want you to feel the pressure of moving the weight away from the platform. The misconception with deadlifting is that people don't understand that what you're doing when you set up is, again, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to set up your feet. You want to make sure you set your feet for wherever it's good for you. And Alex is tall, and he's big, and he's strong. So he has to set his feet out probably wider than I would, all right? The next thing he's going to do is he's going to set his grip. And he's going to find that point on the bar where he feels comfortable that he can keep his arms straight and use his legs to push the bar away from the platform. So when you watch him lift, he's going to get tight, he's going to take the slack out of the bar, and now he's going to drive his feet into the ground and drive the bar away from the platform. Down. 2 more. Then he's going to reset the bar, make sure the bar is close to his body, and he's going to set again. Down. 1 more. Now watch his motion. Watch the way he sits, leans back onto his heels, and he's not rounding his back at all. That back is completely straight. When he gets the bar to his knee is when he shoots the hips. Down. Good. So that is a sumo style deadlift. Sumo is a lift that some people can be better at sumo than conventional. Sumo is something that when I look at an athlete, I have to look at their body type. And we've been saying that for all 3 lifts. Everybody's arms are a little longer or shorter. Everybody's legs may be different, or torsos may be different lengths. When I used to do lifting, when I first started, I did do conventional. But then I found out through coaches that I had pretty long arms. And when I switched to sumo, my technique got better, and it took a while, but my lifts went up. So again, everybody has to find what technique works the best for you. So also, when you watch Alex lift, and we'll have him do one more set here, and then we'll drop the weight a little bit and show you conventional. When he comes to the top of the lift, his chest is out, his shoulders are back, he's completely upright. So when he gets to that top position, everything in his body is contracted. His quads, his glutes, his back, he's holding on to that bar. And he won't put the bar down until he gets that down signal. The reason being is because as a competitive lifter, we want him to be trained like Pavlov's dog. We want him to understand the cues that he needs when he's out there trying to do his personal best. He has to have everything in his brain practice like you play. Every time you go out to the bar, you almost become robotic. Anytime people have seen me train, compete, they say to me and they say to him, every time you go out to that bar, you do the exact same thing. And that goes for any sport. You have to get the mind-body connection, because if you don't, then there's going to be some misconnect. You want to make sure that everything is firing the way that you need it to, and then you're going to do the lifts the way you want them to be, and you're going to do them safely. So let's do one more set of 3. And watch the way every time he does a rep, when that bar comes to the ground, he's got to reset. He's got to reset the position so the bar is not out in front of him. Nice and tight. Big air. Down. Down. Good. Down. Good. So you can see when he gets the down signal, he relaxes enough to follow the bar to the platform. He follows the bar down with good technique. He doesn't throw the bar. He doesn't let the bar pull him to put him in an awkward position that might risk injuring his low back. Remember now, he's a teenager. He's been with me since he was 13. And, you know, he's still growing, believe it or not. And you have to be mindful of who you're training. Who are you as an individual? And what are your abilities and capabilities at that point in time when you step into the gym to create a plan for yourself for the future? You know, we really had no idea that he would be as interested as he is, but you have to be mindful of all the things that you might need to adapt or change or tailor those training routines so that you can have the strength increases over a reasonable period of time to get you to the point where you may be doing things that you never thought you would be able to do. So it's important that when you do the deadlift, the other thing is that when you start, just do a basic setup. Just a basic setup. When you start to set up for the deadlift, you want to make sure that you watch when he goes down to the bar. The bar right now looks like it's sitting about 3 inches away from his body. But as he gets set to pull, he pulls the bar close to his body because you want that bar to ride up his shin. Just do one. Down. If he were to try to lift this bar when the bar is out here, Then what you're probably going to see, and I'm not going to make him do this because I'm not going to try to injure him, but the bar, when the bar is out front here, you find yourself leaning this way, and for every inch that that bar is out in front of you, it adds about 50 pounds to what's on the bar. So you're at higher risk for injury if you allow that to happen. So anytime when you're setting up for the deadlift, or if you're training for the deadlift, take the time to set up. Sometimes we'll say in between each rep, especially if it's very heavy, to let the bar hit the ground, let the bar settle, stand up, let yourself get your air, and then come back to the bar and reset your grip. So now what we're going to do is we're going to just drop this down a little bit, and then we're going to come back and show you a conventional style, which is the other style of deadlifting. Okay, so welcome back. We're now going to look at the conventional style for the deadlift. The difference is, you see his stance is a narrow stance. Sometimes what we will do for any kind of a pushing motion like this with your legs is to, I'm not going to ask Alex to do it now because I know where his stance is, but sometimes we'll ask the athlete to do a vertical jump. And wherever you land, that's usually where your strongest pushing position is for the deadlift. So he's going to do a conventional. Now when he sets up, everything is pretty much the same. He's going to set his grip. He's going to make sure his back is nice and tight. He's going to keep his feet flat on the ground. And he's going to push into the platform and lift the bar down. Good? Two more.
All right.
So he's going to set the bar, set his back, big air. Good. Nice. One more. Set your back. And down. Very good. And so in the conventional, it's the same type of a mindset. You have to get yourself set into the bar, into the bottom position. When you see him set up, let's just set you up here and just show them as far as, if you see a lifter who's setting up, you want to make sure when he goes down to the bar, this is what I'm looking at here. I want this to always stay nice and tight and straight. I want his chest out. I want his feet flat on the ground. So when he goes to push into that platform, he's going to stand straight up. He's going to throw his shoulders back, and he's going to hold that bar, what we call proud, and get a down signal. Two more. Good. And one more. Good. Good. Now, the thing with deadlifting, you can, as an athlete, use both techniques for training purposes. Sometimes you can use conventional, sometimes you can use the sumo. What I will tell you is that the likelihood of there being a correlation with your strength in both conventional and sumo, in the beginning, you're probably going to be weaker in the sumo lift because of what I discussed with the sumo using more of your adductor strength as you go to create that start in the pull. The other thing is that when you're doing these exercises, you have to start with a weight that you know you can lift with good technique. You want to be able to lift a deadlift with a good solid back, shoulders back, chest out, and you want to make sure that you're not rounding your back at all when you come to that top position. Typically, what we will do in training, and any of the athletes know that we will train pretty intensely through an hour of training. Most of the lifts that they're doing, again, these are the three, we call the big three lifts in the powerlifting. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're getting them ready for lifting those bigger weights down the line, if that's the goal. So that was the conventional deadlift. The next thing that we're going to cover is a trap bar deadlift, but before we do, I just want to bring up the use of chalk. Sometimes you'll see athletes who use chalk, and when they do, they will just lightly chalk the palms of their hands, sometimes the insides of their thumbs. And basically this is for you to have a better grip on the bar. I know that there are a lot of facilities or places where you might train where this is not allowed. In this facility, I encourage the athletes to get used to using chalk, because when and if you go to a competition, you can use this. Some of our athletes have sweaty palms. You don't want to be dropping the bar for reasons that you don't need to. If the chalk is going to help you to get a better grip, then that's what you want to use to help you. It's almost like using a belt or a wrist wrap. It's just another part of the game that helps you to create a better grip on that bar. The other thing you noticed on Alex's grip was that he was using an over-under grip. Sometimes you will see athletes who want to use a double over grip. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're using any grip, again, always use your thumbs. Whenever you do this, you're going to have a much stronger grip and be less likely to drop a deadlift because you weren't using your thumbs, because you have a weaker grip if you don't use these. We don't usually encourage using assistance bands on the deadlift. However, in some of our adaptive sports and training, we have had athletes who've had injuries to their hands and are unable to grip. So we do have an adaptive hook that we will allow the athletes to use. And again, that's something that they have to get used to using. We don't start out with maximum weight. We start out with weight to help them to understand how to use the adaptive equipment, to allow them to do the lifts, to help them to build the leg strength and the back strength that they want to build to learn how to do the conventional deadlift. So again, everything that you saw today with each of these lifts, the main keys were setting up, finding your hand position, setting your grip position, setting your feet, taking your air, and making sure that you're in good body position, whether it's the bench, the para bench, the squat, or the sumo, or the conventional deadlift. What we're going to do now is I'm going to load up the trap bar and let you see what a trap bar deadlift looks like, because many times we will teach athletes the trap bar first, and then we will move into the free bar, because this is more of an advanced lifting technique. So we'll be back with trap bar for the next session. The final deadlift we're going to show you today is a trap bar, where the trap bar deadlift can be used as a training tool, it can be used as a teaching tool, and so we're going to show you the setup, how to do a few trap bar deadlifts, and we're going to flip the bar because these bars come with an elevated grip, so that, again, depending on people's flexibility and ability, they may not be able to get all the way down to the bottom, which you'll see it's a little bit lower. So we'll have Alex set up, and when you set up in here, again, for him, because he's tall, And a lot of times we will use this as an adjunct or an additional training tool to teach people how to squat when they can't squat, because this sort of puts you in the same foot position, a little bit wider than a normal stance for conventional, but not as wide as what he was using for the sumo. So again, when he goes to set up, he's going to grip in the middle of the handles so the bar stays solid. He's going to have a flat foot, straight back, chest out, and straight up. Good. 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 So again, with the trap bar, you want to make sure that the athlete stays, or you as the athlete stay in the center of the bar. The way I teach to line up is this center of the bar here should line up with your lower leg, your tibia and fibia, and this way you're going to stand up so you stay in the center of the bar and there's no wobbling of the weight as you stand up with it. So what we'll do is we'll just flip this over. Again, this bar can be a great training tool for a lot of different exercises, including the squat. So now he's going to have to get down a little bit lower to grab the bar. Straight up. Good. Good. Yeah. Good. And again, you notice that when Alex is doing these deadlifts, every rep is coming down and stopping, and then he's resetting. There's no bouncing of the bar, okay? So those are the kinds of exercises that you can practice to build some leg strength, back strength, grip strength. All of those things are going to come into play here with the deadlift. The other thing I just wanted to show you was, again, we don't usually use the belts, but there are many different types of belts that are on the market, and if you're going to use a belt, this is a lever belt that a lot of our athletes use because it's a quick release and it's easy to get on and off. We don't want you to be using these as a crutch. We don't want you to be wearing these as a fashion statement. These should be used in the gym when you need them and when you're able to use them to assist you to get from one level to the next. These are to help you when you get to those weights that might be 90%, 100%. That's when you really want to use your belt. Typically, we don't use our belts in the gym until we get to those higher weights, but every one of you has to learn what you need, when you need it, and hopefully every one of these assistance exercises will help you, whatever sport you're doing, to get you to a higher level to compete in whatever sport you're using. The other thing I wanted to show you was the different types of collars that you may see in a gym. This is a 2.5 kilo heavy collar. Most of the time you'll see these in the gym. They weigh 5 pounds. Then you can see spring collars. Again, these don't weigh much, but it's more about the safety of keeping the weight stable on the bar. And then we have these clips, which sometimes will serve as just, an extra thing to hold your weights on the bar to keep things safe so that when you lift, especially lifting things either in the squat, the bench, anything overhead, you always want to use a clip to make sure that you're lifting safely.
Thank you, Coach LJ and Alex. And on behalf of the Military Adaptive Sports Program here, we want to thank you for attending our powerlifting clinic. And once again, thank you to our athlete Alex and Coach LJ for teaching us some great techniques and drills So you guys go out there and lift safe and lift strong. Bye-bye.